What happens when the man who signs your paychecks shows up in an apron and you don't even know it? Isaiah Archer had inherited the fast casual restaurant chain from his father 4 years ago. 9 locations across the state, all still running strong, or so he thought. Until he noticed something odd in the quarterly reports for the 7th location in the chain downtown branch with high foot traffic, but strangely low retention. Staff turnover every 3 months. Customer ratings dipped. He asked his district manager, who brushed it off as standard burnout. Still, something didn't sit right. Isaiah wasn't the type to hover. He believed in letting managers run their stores. But gut instinct had built his father's company, and that same instinct whispered now, go look for yourself. He shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, swapped his usual tailored jacket for a worn-out hoodie jeans and a name tag that read Ian. Corporate had never sent his photo to stores on purpose. His father had always said, if they don't know your face, you'll see their truth. He walked into the 7th store just after 7 a.m. before the rush and introduced himself as a new hire sent from corporate for training. Cassie, the assistant manager, gave him a quick once-over. You're late, she muttered, though he wasn't. Whatever, just follow me, you'll be running register today. The store looked clean. Open kitchen, bright signage, smell of fresh bread. But behind the counter, the air felt different. Cassie pointed to a younger girl stacking cups. That's Clara. She'll train you, don't slow her down, she's already covering 2 roles. Clara turned, smiling despite the dark circles under her eyes. Hey, I'm Clara, don't worry, I'll walk you through everything. They got to work. Isaiah watched everything. Clara was sharp, calm under pressure, patient with customers, even when someone yelled about a missing pickle. She handled it with a steady tone and a free drink coupon. Not once did Cassie step in to help. By noon, Isaiah had a feel for the flow. The line was out the door, but they were holding it down barely. The shift lead, a guy named Troy, was nowhere to be seen. Where's Troy? Isaiah asked between orders. Clara gave a tight smile. Break. He usually takes long ones. Sure enough, Troy came strolling back 15 minutes later, sipping a smoothie. Yo, he nodded, not even looking at the crowd. Everything good? Clara didn't answer, she just went back to bagging orders. By mid-afternoon, Isaiah had seen enough to know the store had a people problem, not a food issue, not a system issue, a leadership one. After the lunch rush, he sat briefly in the back room to breathe. Cassie walked in, phone in hand, complaining loudly. God, these girls always whining about stuff. If I hear one more thing about being uncomfortable, I swear. Isaiah looked up. Everything okay? Cassie rolled her eyes. Just dumb drama. One of the girls, Jenna, filed some nonsense about Troy making comments. I told her to grow a spine. He jokes around, big deal. He stared at her. Wait, he said slowly. You told her that? Cassie shrugged. I'm not HR, I don't have time for every little meltdown, we're short-staffed as it is. Isaiah's chest tightened. So, you didn't report it? Why would I? She's probably exaggerating. She wears crop tops and then acts shocked when someone notices. He couldn't speak. His mind was racing. He'd built this company on respect. His father had grilled it into him since day one, people first, always. Cassie looked at him. You look like you're about to puke. First day nerves, he stood up. Yeah, something like that. Back up front, he found Clara wiping down the drink station. He kept his voice low. Hey, has anyone here ever made you uncomfortable? She blinked. Why are you asking? Just wondering. You've been here a while, right? Clara hesitated. I'm guessing you heard about Jenna, he nodded. I told her to report it, Clara said. She said she did. But nothing happened. After that, things got worse. Troy started calling her sensitive in front of customers. I tried to talk to Cassie, but she said not to stir things up. Isaiah's jaw tightened. Did she quit? Yeah, 2 weeks ago, he nodded. Thank you for telling me. She looked at him, confused. Why do you care so much? He didn't answer, not yet. That night, he sat in his car for almost an hour before starting it. The sun had gone down, but his mind was still racing. He hadn't taken over this company just to let it rot from the inside. Tomorrow, he'd come back. But not as Ian. The next morning, Isaiah Archer arrived 15 minutes before opening. This time, he wore a navy-collared shirt with the company logo embroidered on the chest. The apron was gone. His name tag read Isaiah Archer Owner. He walked through the front doors without a word. Cassie was behind the register, sipping from a tall paper cup and scrolling through her phone. She looked up, then froze. The silence stretched. "Good morning," Isaiah said evenly. Cassie blinked fast. Hi, can I help you?" "I'm here to speak with the entire team." "Please gather everyone in the dining area. Right now." Her hand tightened on the cup. "Is something going on?" "Yes," he said. "Something is very wrong." She didn't move at first, then, seeing the expression on his face, she turned and disappeared toward the kitchen. Within 5 minutes, the crew stood near the register, confused and whispering. Clara stood slightly apart from the others, eyes flicking between Isaiah and Cassie. Troy strolled out last, still chewing something. Isaiah stood in front of the prep counter and looked at each of them. "My name is Isaiah Archer. I own this company. Yesterday, I worked this location undercover as a new hire. I wanted to see things for myself. What I saw was unacceptable." The whispers stopped. A few employees looked stunned. Clara didn't move. "No one here knew who I was. That was intentional. I needed honesty. What I found was a team doing their best without support. I saw solid employees holding this place together while others avoided responsibility. I heard about harassment complaints being ignored. That ends now." Troy chuckled under his breath. "Is this a joke?" Isaiah's voice stayed even. "Troy, when you're not on break, you're barely working. You ignore the line, disappear during rushes, and make comments that have made others uncomfortable. Effective immediately, you're terminated." Troy's mouth opened, but Isaiah cut him off. "You're done. I'll have someone collect your badge and keys. You have 5 minutes to leave." Troy's expression darkened, but he saw the look in Isaiah's eyes. He turned without a word and walked out, slamming the back door as he left. Isaiah turned to Cassie. "You ignored a harassment claim. Then you retaliated against the employee who filed it. You also failed to report it to HR as required by our company policy." Cassie's arms folded across her chest. "I didn't retaliate. She quit. You called her complaints nonsense. You blamed her clothing. That's retaliation. And negligence. I've been running this store short-staffed for months. Maybe if we had more help, that has nothing to do with your failure to protect your staff. You're terminated, effective immediately." Cassie's mouth opened, but no sound came. She looked around, realized no one was coming to her defense, then grabbed her purse and walked out without another word. Isaiah waited until the door closed behind her. The room was silent. "I know this is a shock," he said, "but this was overdue. No one should ever feel unsafe or unsupported at work. That's on leadership. And I failed you by not knowing what was happening sooner." He paused. "Clara, can I speak with you privately?" She nodded, nervous but steady. They stepped into the office in the back. Isaiah closed the door gently behind them. "You shouldn't have had to carry so much," he said. "You kept this place running while others avoided responsibility. That didn't go unnoticed." Clara shook her head. "I didn't do anything special. I just didn't want to let it fall apart." "That's exactly why it's special. You stayed calm, handled customers with respect, stepped in for others. That's leadership." He studied her for a beat. "Would you consider stepping up as interim manager while we rebuild?" Her eyes widened. "Me? Yes. You already do the work. I'll bring in a support team to help train and stabilize things." "You won't be alone." Clara hesitated. "I've never run a store before. You've already been doing most of the job. You just haven't had the title or support. That changes now." She nodded slowly. "Okay. I can try." "Not try," he said. "Lead." They stepped back into the dining area. The rest of the staff was still quiet, watching. Isaiah addressed them again. "Clara will serve as interim manager starting today. I'll be on site this week, and we're bringing in a new district support lead. Anyone who wants to talk privately about concerns, my door is open." A young man near the prep station raised his hand. "What about the schedule? We're short now." Isaiah nodded. "We'll bring in float staff from nearby locations to cover the next few weeks." No one here will be expected to do more than one role, and we're posting a new hiring push starting today. Another employee spoke up. Are we getting new training too? A lot of us never got proper onboarding. Yes, Isaiah said. We're overhauling training. Every employee here will get paid time to go through the new program starting next Monday. No more learning by panic. Clara stepped forward. We'll take it one step at a time, just be honest with me. If something's not working, I want to know. Isaiah turned to her. That's the right mindset. The staff began to nod. A few even smiled, the tension broken slightly. Later that afternoon, Isaiah sat at a corner table with his laptop open and a headset in. He'd postponed his other meetings for the week. This mattered more. He watched Clara recalibrate the prep board, then quietly coach a nervous new hire on how to use the register without stepping in or taking over. A regional HR rep arrived mid-afternoon to formally document everything that had occurred. Isaiah gave her full access to the records and security footage. No redactions, he said. Word had spread quickly through the chain, and by the end of the day, 2 more employees from nearby stores called HR to report similar concerns about Troy's behavior when he had visited their locations as a temporary fill-in. HR opened a full review. Isaiah stayed until the dinner rush started. He didn't step in, just watched Clara steady the crew, delegate clearly, and thank employees by name. There was no grand speech, no banners, just action. He left quietly, slipping out the front without fanfare. That night, as he sat in his car again, his phone buzzed. A message from Jenna had come through, forwarded by HR. She'd heard what happened and simply wanted to say thank you. Isaiah didn't reply. He just sat there, staring at the screen. This wasn't about fixing a store. It was about restoring trust, and he wasn't finished yet. By Thursday, the energy inside the downtown location had shifted, but the cracks hadn't sealed. Isaiah returned just before lunch, not undercover this time, but still without fanfare. He wore a simple gray polo, sleeves rolled, and no company badge. Clara had stepped into the interim manager role with composure, but he knew better than to assume leadership was a switch someone could simply flip. "Morning," she said, glancing up from the prep schedule taped to the wall behind the counter. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the 6 hours she'd already logged before he arrived. "Everything holding together?" Isaiah asked. She gave a small nod. "Barely. We're 2 people short again. Evan called out, said he was sick. And Sam's still waiting on her background check before she can start." Isaiah scanned the line forming just past the door. "You need another body today. I'll jump in on Expo. Let's keep the line moving." Clara didn't argue. She just handed him gloves and pointed toward the sandwich counter. The team moved fast, but without enough hands, every second stretched thin. Isaiah worked silently, building orders, double-checking modifiers, and watching the crew's rhythm. At the register, a tall woman with short braids handled customers with sharp efficiency. Her name tag read Renee. She hadn't been on shift during his first visit. Every phrase that left her mouth was clipped and precise, but when a customer asked for allergen info, she paused mid-flow and walked them through the ingredients without rushing. Between orders, Isaiah leaned closer and kept his voice low. "How long have you been here?" Started 2 weeks ago, transferred from East Ridge. "Why the move?" Renee glanced toward the back hallway. "Didn't fit in there." Isaiah raised an eyebrow. "Didn't fit in." She didn't blink. "I'm blunt, and I don't like being talked over. Apparently that was a problem." He nodded once. "You feel like you're getting support here." She hesitated. "Clara's solid, but she's stretched. Everyone can see it." Before he could respond, a loud clang echoed from the back kitchen. One of the prep bins had dropped lettuce everywhere. A new hire, barely 16, stood frozen, eyes wide. Clara was already moving, kneeling to help. "It's okay, Felicia. Grab the broom. I'll get the bin." Felicia still hadn't moved. From the other side of the counter, a voice rang out loud, nasal, and too familiar. "God, how hard is it to just hold on to something?" Isaiah turned. A man in his late 20s leaned against the drink machine, arms crossed. His name tag read Brett. He wasn't on the schedule Clara had shown him earlier. Isaiah stepped forward. "You scheduled today, Brett?" Brett tossed a look over his shoulder. "Nah, just swinging by, figured I'd grab my check." Isaiah kept his tone level. "You came behind the counter for that," Brett shrugged. "Relax. I used to run this place, remember? Old habits." Clara stood now, brushing off her knees. "You're not supposed to be back here." Brett's eyes flicked to hers. "Didn't know you were in charge now." "She is," Isaiah said. "And you're not welcome behind the line." Brett's jaw tensed. "You got a problem, man. You're no longer employed here," Isaiah said. "You just made that decision permanent." Brett laughed, but it was hollow. "What, you don't like jokes?" "It's not my fault the new kids can't handle a bin." Isaiah pointed at the exit. "Leave, now." Brett muttered something under his breath, then pushed through the swinging doors. The moment the door closed, Isaiah turned to Clara. "He just dropped in." Clara looked exhausted. "He was shift lead a few months back. Got demoted after showing up late 3 times in 1 week. Quit after that. Sometimes he shows up without warning." "Why didn't anyone report that to security?" "I didn't think it'd escalate. He never stayed this long." Isaiah clenched his jaw. "From now on, if someone isn't scheduled, especially someone previously disciplined, they don't step foot behind the counter. That's a safety issue." "I understand," Clara said. Isaiah exhaled slowly and turned toward Felicia, who was still standing with the broom in her hand. "You okay?" She nodded quickly, but her hands were shaking. He crouched to her level. "You did nothing wrong." She blinked fast. "I shouldn't have dropped it." "It happens. What matters is how we respond. You're not alone here, got it?" She nodded again, this time more firmly. Clara took the broom gently from her and guided her back toward the prep station. Isaiah stepped into the back office and called HR. Within minutes, Brett was added to the do not rehire list, and his access to the building was formally revoked. He dictated a follow-up note for the district asset protection lead. Install a backdoor camera and lock system tied to employee schedules. When he returned to the front, the lunch rush had begun. Renee was holding the register line down solo, multitasking with a quiet intensity. He stepped back behind the counter and took over bagging orders. An hour later, the line finally tapered. Clara appeared beside him, holding a clipboard. "We're low on gloves and paper wraps. Should have gotten a delivery yesterday, but I think it's late." Isaiah nodded. "Vendor issue? Could be. Our route driver changes every other week. Last guy was on time, this new one not so much. I'll have procurement look into that. Consistency matters." She hesitated. "Are you planning to be here all week?" He looked at her directly. "Yes." "Until everything's stable." Clara didn't hide her relief. "Good." He stepped outside for a brief breath of air and noticed a man standing near the corner of the lot, holding a clipboard and talking to one of the employees on a smoke break. The man wore a faded red polo with another restaurant's logo, one of their biggest competitors. Isaiah approached slowly, listening. "I'm just saying we pay better," the man was saying. "And no one's breathing down your neck." The employee, a young guy with short curls and a nervous posture, flicked ashes from his cigarette but didn't respond. "You recruiting on my property?" Isaiah asked, calm but firm. The recruiter turned. "It's public sidewalk." "Then stay on it." "You cross that curb again and I'll call the police." The man raised his hands. "Just offering options, boss." Isaiah didn't respond. He turned to the employee. "You want to talk about your pay? Let's talk inside." The recruiter backed off. The employee crushed his cigarette and followed Isaiah back in. Inside, Isaiah gestured for him to sit. "How long you been with us?" 3 months, the young man said. "Name's Darnell." "You thinking about leaving?" Darnell looked down. "Honestly, I like it here, but I'm barely covering rent. My last check was short because I had to cover someone's shift, but the overtime didn't show up." Isaiah frowned. "That's not right. Did you report it?" Tried. Got bounced between 2 voicemails. Isaiah stood. "Come with me." They walked to the back where Isaiah pulled up the payroll system and opened Darnell's file. Sure enough, overtime hours weren't flagged. "A system error." Isaiah made a note. "You'll have a corrected check by tomorrow with the difference." Darnell's eyes widened. Thanks, Isaiah nodded. And if anyone ever tries to poach you again, you send them to me. The rest of the day passed in a steady rhythm, chaotic, but without the tension that had hung in the air earlier that week. Employees moved faster, but they were talking more, asking questions, covering for each other. Clara was still stretched thin, but she wasn't alone. As the sun dipped, Isaiah stood near the kitchen wall, watching Renee teach Felicia how to portion sauces without wasting product. Clara was reviewing the cleaning checklist with 2 of the night shift crew. Isaiah's phone buzzed, a message from operations. All reported complaints from Store 7 now formally logged. HR recommends full retraining of remaining staff. He replied with one word, approved. Then he stepped back into the kitchen, grabbed a rag and started wiping down the counters with the crew. No speeches. No declarations, just work, but this time the right people were finally doing it. By the following Monday, Isaiah had shifted his schedule entirely. His headquarters calendar was cleared for the next 10 days, and a small operations trailer had been set up behind the downtown store. He wasn't leaving until the roots of the problem were fully dug out. At 7:30 sharp, he stepped into the store, not with the intention of observing but rebuilding. The crew was already prepping, and Clara was reviewing the new inventory sheet with Renee near the back freezer. No greetings were exchanged, just nods of acknowledgement and movement. The tone was changing, but the strain hadn't vanished. Not yet. Isaiah walked to the front and unlocked the office door. Sitting inside was a woman in her 40s, wearing a slate-colored blouse and square glasses. Her name was Carol, and she'd been pulled from the compliance division to conduct in-person interviews with staff who had filed concerns over the last 6 months. It was the first time the company had ever sent someone to a single location for that purpose. "They're ready to talk," Carol said as he stepped into the room. 3 this morning, 4 scheduled later. "Good," Isaiah said. "No summaries, I want full transcripts, and don't filter anything." "I won't." He returned to the floor just as a customer began raising their voice at the counter. Isaiah didn't intervene. Instead, he watched how Clara handled it. Calm tone, no apologies for the rules, just a quiet offer to remake the item or refund it. The customer eventually took the new order and left muttering, but without further escalation. Renee approached him soon after. "Can I have 5 minutes when you're free?" He nodded and followed her into the back hallway. "I need to tell you something I didn't say last week," she began. "It's about Troy from before he was fired." Isaiah folded his arms. "Go ahead." "He wasn't just making comments to Jenna," she said. "He came at me too. First week I transferred in. Said I had attitude because I didn't laugh at his jokes. Then he started assigning me double closing shifts back to back. When I asked why, he said it was to burn the edge off. I reported it to Cassie." Isaiah's jaw tensed. "What did she say?" "She told me he was just testing me. Said if I wanted to stick around, I'd have to learn not to take things personally." He held her gaze. "You should have never had to deal with that. I'm filing a separate misconduct report on Cassie for that alone." "If you're comfortable, I'd like you to give Carol a statement." Renee nodded. "I can do that." Later that afternoon, the supply truck finally arrived nearly 4 days late. The driver, a man in his 50s with a clipboard and a strained expression, stepped out and began unloading without acknowledging Clara or Isaiah. "I need you to sign," he said without making eye contact. Isaiah looked through the shipment. Several items were short. Half the wrap paper rolls were missing. "This isn't the full order," Isaiah said. "We had a short load," the driver replied. "Next truck might cover it." Clara approached, holding the original invoice. "This is the 3rd time we've had incomplete deliveries from this vendor." Isaiah looked at the driver. "You log shortages." "Dispatch logs it. I just drive." Isaiah didn't respond. Instead, he pulled out his phone and called the procurement director. "I want this vendor flagged," he said. 3 missed deliveries in 2 months, no call ahead, no tracking. We're done with them." The procurement director began to protest. "No," Isaiah said. "This isn't a negotiation. Find a new supplier by end of day." He hung up and turned to Clara. We'll get emergency stock from the regional depot. You'll have what you need by morning." She gave a quick nod, then returned to the floor. By 4 o'clock, Isaiah sat down with Darnell at a side table near the window. The corrected paycheck had been delivered in person that morning by payroll services, along with a formal apology. "You wanted to talk?" Isaiah asked. Darnell hesitated. "Yeah, I wasn't planning to stay long when I started here, but I've seen the change this week. I want to stay. But I want to know if there's a real path to more than just line work." Isaiah leaned forward. "What are you thinking?" "I'm good with systems. I used to help my uncle run a small deli, inventory, scheduling, even shift swaps. I'd like to learn more of that side." Isaiah nodded. "Start shadowing Clara during her admin blocks. If you're serious, we'll enroll you in the next leadership training cycle. You keep showing up like you have, we'll make it official." Darnell's face lit up not with surprise, but with something steadier, like recognition. The next day, Isaiah brought in someone new, a soft-spoken woman named Nia from the company's leadership development team. She wasn't there to patch holes. She was there to train Clara. They sat together for 2 hours in the office, going over scheduling software, labor compliance, and time-off protocols. Outside the door, the store kept running. Isaiah saw Renee step into a lead position on the floor, directing traffic and adjusting prep times. Darnell handled the register with confidence. Felicia moved with more ease, speaking up when she needed backup. By the end of the week, Isaiah called a full team meeting before opening. Everyone gathered near the prep line. "I won't take much of your time," he began. "But I want to say this clearly. You've been through more than any crew should have to, and you've kept showing up even when leadership failed you. That changes now for good." He turned to Clara. "You've taken on more than your share, and you've done it with integrity. Starting today, the interim title is gone. You're now the official manager of this store." A few employees clapped. Clara didn't smile. She just nodded, the weight of the words slowly settling. "To the rest of you," Isaiah continued, "we're putting in permanent changes. The new training program starts Monday. Every new hire will be required to complete it before touching the floor. You'll also be paid for your time during that training, no exceptions." He looked around the room. "We've added a direct line to HR for this location. No more voicemails. No more runarounds." He paused. "And finally, if anyone makes you feel unsafe, unheard, or unsupported again, you come to me, direct, no chain of command, no filters." After the meeting, Clara pulled him aside near the dish area. "You didn't have to do all this," she said. "I did," Isaiah replied, "because we can't claim to be a people-first company if we only mean it on paper." She didn't respond, but something in her posture shifted, less guarded, more grounded. That night, Isaiah sat alone in the operations trailer, reviewing the final reports from Carol. 7 employees had submitted statements. 2 had requested transfers. 1 decided to leave but with a positive exit interview. The others had chosen to stay. He picked up his phone and left a voicemail for the district leadership team. Effective immediately, we're reviewing all 9 locations. I want every store evaluated for compliance, culture, and training. No more blind spots. If we find anything even close to what happened here, we clean house. The next morning, Isaiah left the downtown store quietly, no grand send-off, no photos, just a promise made and kept.